So mobile web. We know why it's important, but what is it that makes mobile web different, and what is it we need to know about mobile web if we're going to choose to go down that path? What a lot of people tell you about mobile web is that context is king. What you need to know about mobile is that it is mobile. People encounter it on their mobile devices. They encounter it when they're in the car. They encounter it when they're on the go. They encounter it when they might be in a competitor's retail location, or when they might be in your retail location. These are all important things to think about because that's important to know for how you're developing this technology. You know that on a mobile device, you don't want to have to scroll horizontally. You really only want to have to scroll up and down. You know that you don't want to put in pop-ups or hovers or anything like that at all because this is not a PC, this is a mobile device. However, I think that's a great point, but at the end of the day, we're flipping that X to an N because it's still content that matters most. And that, I go back to that gentleman over there who said, I just want to know the darn hours of operation. When people are looking for you on a mobile device, it's traditionally to find out information like that, and we'll get to what the 3 biggest pieces of information are in a minute. But you know when people are accessing you mobilely what it is they're looking for just because of generally accepted use cases within the industry. They want to know the hours of operation. They want to know contact information. They want to just generally find out what your business is if they've heard about the TV campaign you're doing. And if you can't provide that information in the right context, you can't provide that content, then that is what the real problem is. It's not about a poorly designed page. It's about not putting the information there at all. The next thing, define the use cases. This speaks to what we were just talking about. Context, you know the situation in which people are going to be encountering your devices. Let's say you know that you're running an advertising campaign on the radio about maybe a really great discount you're doing on home in-ground pool installations. If you know that that's what's going to be driving people to your website, then have some sort of information about that on your mobile web homepage. Have information out there about what you're currently talking about as a business. Define the situations in which people are going to be reaching out to you for the first time, and then make sure you're putting the information that's pertinent in an easily accessible location. Important to remember, however, about mobile web is that it's a world under construction, always changing. Generally accepted rules are changing. Design best practices are always changing. And more importantly, the technologies implemented on the back-end side are always changing. Just like I mentioned before, when mobile flash was gotten rid of, so many businesses were not prepared with a new mobile website or have not taken any steps to implement a new mobile website because they haven't paid attention to know that this happened. When you cart over to mobile, always pay attention to the trends because you don't, unfortunately, we don't make these devices. That's the Apples and the Samsung and the LGs of the world who do that. And more important than just the hardware, we also need to know what the software provider will do. I told you I'm going to tell you the 3 most important pieces of information you need as a business to have on a mobile website. Hours of operation, can't stress that enough. Cannot stress that enough. When people are mobile, it means they're out and they're on the go. They're usually trying to find out if they can get somewhere at a particular point in time, or they need to call someone to find out if a store has something in stock before they schlep over there. These 2 things, incredibly important. And the third is location information. When I'm on the go, when I'm mobile, and I look you up, if it's not for hours of operation, it's not for contact information, it's to find out where your office is located. Because I knew that I needed to come here today. Last night I went to Safari and I pulled open the Small Business Development Center's webpage so that I could get the address to come here. And I found it very, very easily thanks to my Google search. And it was there, it was on the top of the page, it wasn't difficult to find, it wasn't embedded 5 pages deep, it was right there, and I said, perfect, now I know where I have to go. And lo and behold, I made it.
And when you say you knew how to go, you had the address there, or you had another
either or.
thing,
There were either
a Jeep to lead you to a
there were
GPS
either
map.
directions there for me, or the way mobile works, if you just have the address there, I can click it and cart over to my map/GPS feature. We talked about do's and don'ts for QR codes. Let's talk about do's and don'ts for mobile web. Mobile do, always link to the full site. My own history as a frequent user of Amazon.com, I sell a lot of things through them and I buy a lot of things through them. On Amazon's mobile site, I can buy things 1, 2, 3 using one-click shopping. I look up the name of the book I want or the DVD or the t-shirt that I want, whatever it is, and within 45 seconds I have it purchased. But more importantly, I sell a lot of things through Amazon.com, and I always want to make sure that I'm monitoring my seller account and that my account doesn't get a negative reputation. So what Amazon has at the bottom of the page, though I can't access my seller account through the mobile site, what I can do is they have a little button that says View Full HTML Site. Because they know that there's going to be 15, 25, whatever percentage of situations it is that somebody actually needs a feature that they didn't want to cart over into just this attractive mobile site. So I go over to the full page, and then I can log into my seller account. I can access that information I need and take care of whatever dispute resolution or notify somebody that I've shipped a product to them, whatever it is I need to do. And that's a great feature, and that's why I keep selling through Amazon, because they've thought about that and they know what it is I need to take care of my business through them. Second thing to do is limit the number of pages. It's important to understand that on mobile devices, we do not cache like we do on a PC or a Mac. We don't have a stored history of images so that we can load a page faster next time we visit. We have to reload everything like it's the first time. So if I have to take 5 taps on your site to get to the information I need, that's a really long and painstaking process for me. When I say painstaking, it's all relative. And if I go down the wrong path and I need to go back and find it, I got to keep clicking back until I get there. And now I got to wait for the home page to load all over again. And if you don't have a great mobile site, that's going to take me another 1.5 minutes to wait for that to come through. A lot of what I talk, when I say mobile design, that's important, a way to limit page numbers, have as much as you can on that first page as possible. Have tabs that information hide under, include those first 3 big pieces of information there in an attractive way. If I don't have to go anywhere besides the home page to find out what I need, that's a great mobile experience for me. And the third thing, limit navigation options. I touched on this before, but on a mobile device, people are not going sideways. They're going up and down. That's about it. Don't make me have to go 15 tabs over. Don't make me have to read an article by going 300 characters right. Fit it to the screen. Mobile website don'ts: avoid pop-ups, hovers, and other useless tricks. When people make a website, they want to have flash, they want to have pop, they want to have all these crazy things that make it seem awesome. They want to put on a song. That's fantastic. I recommend it sometimes. I think it's great. Don't ever do it on my phone. Just don't do it. It's a waste of time. It slows down the experience, and it probably either is not made to actually work, or if the phone does try to do it, it really won't look good. It'll be bad. Second thing is, don't deploy without testing. So the thing to know about mobile web, and I'll get into this when I talk about the differences from mobile apps towards the end, but mobile web is universal across devices. When I make one mobile website, somebody on a BlackBerry phone, a Windows phone, an Android phone, or an iPhone can access that mobile website. What that means, though, is that you need to be more diligent about making sure this mobile website has the correct information and it renders properly on these different devices. It renders correctly on an iPhone. It renders correctly on a BlackBerry phone. Make sure that the user is actually seeing what you initially designed. And the third don't: do not take your website and make it mobile. This goes back to what I talked about before. You have a lot of great tricks on that website. You have a lot of pet projects, pet pages, things like that. Don't cart them over. In fact, I want you to forget about every pet page, every GIF, all the filler content, cumbersome e-commerce plugins, videos, and large images. Take them all, give them a nice pat on the back because they've served you well on the computer, and cart them off to a green pasture somewhere because we don't need them in the world of mobile. Makes your site longer to load. They will cart me out of the site in many cases. This is a difficult plugin that might not work in some situations. These are pages that I don't need to wait to load for or will confuse me when I'm trying to find the information I'm looking for. Mobile is not the computer. Mobile is about efficiency. It's about getting the information I need, when I need it, where I need it. So that is the world of mobile web, mobile applications. And I'm just going to ask you if you know any questions about that till the end, because these two sort of do work together in this presentation. Mobile applications. We all know what mobile apps here, I'm sure. Everybody here who does have a smartphone has downloaded some mobile apps. The average smartphone user in the United States has 65 different mobile applications that they've downloaded. I would say I'm right on par with that. So if you say that, okay, I want to get into the world of mobile, or I'm thinking about getting into the world of mobile, what is it that I need to know? There are a couple of key questions you need to consider, and the first one is why. There are so many small businesses who I encounter who say, oh, I built an app and it was great, but like I'm not really getting the return that I wanted on this really big time and money investment. I said, well, why'd you build it? He goes, That's why you need to ask yourself this now, because you're going to invest a lot of time and a lot of money in building that mobile application. And if you don't have either a clear purpose as to why it's being built, or you don't know why your customers would use this in the first place, or you don't know what the future of this app holds or what features are in there, or if you can't do something else in place of a mobile app that solves this problem, then you shouldn't do it in the first place. All right, so let's say you've asked yourself why, and you're prepared to go on to the next stage. Then you need to ask yourself, wait, really? is this the best solution I have to this problem at this point in time? Would I be better off doing a mobile website? Would I be better off not doing anything at all? If you're convinced that you can answer that question, there's got to be a better way. There's always a better way, except when there isn't, which means you can go ahead and make a mobile app. But always stop and consider. Always do this 3 times. Always run through every possible situation, every solution to the problem. Get someone to offer you some outside input. Find a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner who's also who may have made a mobile application in the past. Get their input on the process. See if they think it's proved to be a valuable thing for them to have. Because again, this is a time and a money investment. All right. You've made it past those 3 stages and you're ready to make your next big decision. The first thing you have to do is decide what platform to develop for and the generation of device to develop for. Generation is obviously the most recent one that you want to design for, but for platform you have 4 fairly good options, 2 much more popular than the rest. iPhone, Android, Windows Mobile, and BlackBerry. Clearly we have 2 dominant players in the market here, Windows Mobile, which is very up and coming, and BlackBerry, which I may or may not have to deliver a eulogy for in the near future. Some important statistics about these different platforms. There are actually more Android devices in the market than there are iPhone, which may be hard to believe because you think, oh my God, iPhone is so popular, they did this first, supposedly, whatever. But it's actually because there are more devices out there that are available on more wireless carriers, there are more Android devices in the market than there are iPhone. However, iPhone accounts for more web usage than do Android phones, to the tune of 61% versus 19%. Something that's interesting, something you want to be aware of.
The Android crashes all the time.
Yeah. Mobile versus tablet, that's the next decision you have to make. Okay, I've decided I want to develop for Android or for iOS, but is this an iPhone app or is this an iPad app? And that's a very important question. This is an important stage you need to think about. We were originally developing this app we were working for with the celebrity pizza chef in the city to be an iPhone application. That's when people think about apps, you think about the phone in the palm of your hand before you think about a tablet in many cases. But then we realized this is about an immersive cooking experience. This is about really driving home how important food is and getting into what it's like to make a really good pizza. This needs to be an iPad application. We need to allow for high-resolution videos going on at the same time as instructions and having side-by-side pictures to show people what it's like at different stills at different times in the video. Very important question to ask. And you need to know, again, you need to know the purpose of this application and what users are going to be able to do there to decide which device you want to develop for. And in many cases, like the case of Square here, which is a great application and product, you might just want to decide to develop for both. That's an expensive proposition, but it's not necessarily, if you can cart this over in a way that's valuable to have on both platforms, then it's worth it. The next question, and I have an answer to this that I'll provide, is do you want to do a revenue model? Is it a free app or a paid app? In the case for most businesses, I believe it should always be a free app without ads. This is a valuable add-on for your customers. It's about retaining them or winning them over for the first time. You shouldn't put up a barrier to them getting this because you don't know how many people you might generate as a sales lead because of getting this app the first time. And even that $99 or $199, $299 barrier could prevent you from turning a customer good lead into $10,000 in revenue. And I also don't believe that business apps should ever have advertisements in them unless you are an app whose sole purpose is to generate revenues by downloading the app. You're an app-based business. But businesses that have retail locations and are those of you who are here involved with today, I don't believe you should have ads. They take away from the impression that people get about your business by having an app. All right, so you've decided what you want. You've decided what platforms you're going to build for. You know generally what it is you'll be developing. Now it's time to decide what exactly is this. Like, I know what I want to make. I know I want to make an e-cookbook. I know I want to make a banking app. But what is it that occurs here? One of my favorite things that we do when we build an app is we create an app map. It's our roadmap to development. It's our roadmap to the future. It's our roadmap to actually understand what it is that we need to build that's going to occur here. The first thing you want to do, build the top level screen, build that home screen. That lets you know what every feature is going to be included in there, what is the first thing that users are going to see when they get this. This is a very important screen. And even more important than this in some situations is the loading screen, which is the screen that users see when they first open the app, and it sits there for anywhere from 1 to 5 seconds while the app loads in the background. But So you design the home screen, and then you say, okay, these are my main features there. Drill down a little further, what's included in each of those sections. And then just keep drilling down. Keep drilling down until you've hit every possible page you need. We have an app map that could probably take up the span of this entire wall somewhere in our office for one of the apps that we're building right now. And it's incredibly cumbersome to look at sometimes, but it's the most helpful thing you will do. It reminds you why it is you're developing in the way you are. It reminds you what it is this app is built to do. It reminds you the hierarchy of information that's involved in there. This is an incredibly important thing to have. And more importantly, doing this before you actually develop, when you can look at this and have a graph, you can either say to yourself, do I grasp what's going on here, or does this make no sense to me at all? And in that situation, you actually may be able to reevaluate and say, either this app is not what I want, or I don't need an app at all. If you're past this stage of building the app map, the next thing to start thinking about, and in my opinion, the most important thing to be thinking about, is design and the user experience. Apps that are well known either have a really cool feature or they're beautiful. They're gorgeously designed, they're intuitive, they have ergonomic functionalities, and that's where these things come into play. This is the stage at which you think about, what is this interface going to look like? What story do I want to be happening to the user? The way we work with our designers and developers is we don't tell them functionalities, we tell them a user use case. We say, Jimmy just got a check in the mail from work and he needs to deposit it at the bank because he needs to go pay his credit card bill tonight. But he doesn't have time to get to the bank. He needs to take a picture and deposit it in his account. And then he needs to be able to transfer that money over to his other bank, his other checking accounts, so that he can pay the bill. Obviously, I'm telling the story here of Chase Quick Deposit or whatever it is that they use on the phone, and it's not something I've built, but I think you can understand the point here. Tell the story so that you know what screens you need to design. And think about this in a way that is functional. Don't think about it in just squares and boxes. Yes, you do wireframe it first, but think about the way that this should be developed. I'll say it again, design is one of the most important things you can do for a mobile application. You know, when people see the Mona Lisa, you're all standing behind that rope and it's back there inside plexiglass or plastic, whatever it is, I don't know. But you know, everyone wants to lean forward, they want to get closer to it, they want to see it, they want to touch it, they want to interact with it, but they can't. But your app, they can touch it. They can play around with it, they can explore, they can try out new functionalities, they can find out information, they get to become a part of the artwork. That's incredibly important to people. So mobile app do's and don'ts. The first thing is leverage. You can do a lot of things on a mobile device when you have a native application, which is what a mobile app is. Mind you, the distinction between a mobile app and a mobile website is that a website does not live on the user's phone, but a mobile app does. When you do that, you can leverage. You can leverage other apps that might exist on that person's phone. You can leverage the fact that this is a downloaded piece of content. Think about what it is that your app is meant to do, and then figure out ways you can incorporate other technologies to build something that's really cool and has some value added. The second thing I always recommend is build for iOS first. I am a little bit partial to iOS just because I do have an iPhone and an iPad, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with Android. I just believe that iOS is a better development ground than Android is. I think it's a safer environment to do it in as well. It's been around longer, so there are more developers who I've interacted with who are more well-versed in this and feel more comfortable going there first. And the important thing for you as a business is that you could develop for all 4 platforms at once, but that's expensive and it's costly because not only do you have to initially pay for the development of 4 blocks of code, but for Android you have to develop different iterations of some of that code because it's not a universal screen size. And then once that first code comes out, you find out there are bugs or you want to make a small tweak to a feature, you have to go into all 4 blocks of code to do it instead of just going into one. So develop first for iOS, or if you choose to develop for Android first, do that, but only do one first so that you can get it out there, let people play around with it, see what bugs you need to change, see how users are interacting with it, and maybe you need to make one feature more dominant than the other one, and then release it for those other 3 platforms, or those other 2 platforms, or that other one platform. It's a much smarter way to go about the development of this and releasing everything all at once. And finally, rethink everything, and yes, I intentionally choose the fluorescent bulb there. Rethink everything. With mobile, it is a world that can only be limited by what we dream imaginable. We can do almost anything we want if we find a developer who's willing to take that jump with us. So if you think you have an idea that's too crazy to work, it never hurts to flesh the idea out and give somebody a phone call and say, hey, do you think this is something we could develop? Because that's how really cool things get started. So mobile app don'ts. Don't mix and match. What I mean by that is do not build an app that's just a wrapper for your website. It's incredibly frustrating when I take the time to download a mobile application and what I've downloaded is just an app that I open up and then it brings me to their website within that app. That has no value for me. Again, that's like me scanning a QR code that's taking me to your homepage. You're lucky when you have somebody who downloads an app that you buy, because that's not just me scanning a QR code, that's me taking time out, downloading it, giving you space on my phone to let your native application live. Now you've really hooked me. And now you're just taking me to your homepage again. If I downloaded the mobile app, give me a mobile app. It's okay if you need to direct me to your website once in a while for a certain feature or a certain block of information, but if you're going to make a mobile app, make a mobile app. Second thing, avoid gimmicks. It's really easy, just like it is with websites, and a lot of people did when they first built their website back in the mid and late 90s, to get hooked and roped in and all these crazy mobile app development gimmicks. Oh, I can gamify this, I can throw in this cool feature, I can put in a song and a video. Don't get hooked by that. Make the app for the purposes of the app. You have a mission. When we developed it, we figured out what that concept was. We had that app map that designed what it was that's supposed to exist here. Adhere to that, stick to that, follow that. And the third thing is, be very careful about information collection, not in the sense that users feel their security and their personal information is being invaded, but when you ask for a lot of information up front the first time somebody opens it, they just might be saying, oh, I don't have time right now to fill out my contact information in here, or I don't have time to create an account at this second, I'll go back to it later. Then they might not ever go back to it. Let them play around with it that first time, let them experience it. And then, maybe two clicks deep, 2 taps deep, you have that information. Then you collect that information. At least they've already expressed interest. They've gone further than that homepage to find out what goes on here. But don't put that up that initial roadblock and prevent them from actually reaching that stage. And I just want to quickly talk about here, because I did mention it just now, about taps and quote unquote the metric I call taps to information. I mentioned a lot of times in mobile web and mobile app about I hate that when information is embedded. I hate when I have to go 5 clicks deep to find what I'm looking for. I hate when I have to tap 3 different buttons on my phone to find the information I want. Again, with mobile, define the use cases. If you know the information people are looking for and when they're looking for it, make that information available in as few taps as possible. On the home page, make it 1 tap deep, make it 2 tap deep. I usually say anything more than 3, or in extreme cases 4 taps, is really, you should rethink how you've decided to design this mobile application or website. So decisions. As I said, mobile app and mobile web have a lot of interplay, and at this stage, a lot of businesses are deciding between one of the two. A couple of the pros and cons of each one that we'll talk about. Mobile applications. What I love about mobile apps and why I always recommend mobile apps is that they offer a controlled user experience. Because I'm downloading something that's persistent onto my phone that has information in it, you can control the experience I have with it. You know that it's going to replicate every single time, and I'll be doing the same things, which is very important for a business to have that control. The second thing is, if you are interested in creating a paid or an advertising app, you can generate some additional ad revenue or revenue from selling that application. The third thing, for a lot of businesses, they appreciate the prestige piece component of it. Mobile app is something to talk about, particularly in the business community. If it's something that your competition doesn't offer, or you just offer a new feature that's been thought of in a new, different, and exciting way, this is something you can put out a press release about, talk about it, chat about it with prospective customers. The fourth thing, mobile apps work anytime, anywhere. Obviously, the exception to that is if there is a feature that requires an internet connection, they're not going to be able to do that. But again, because that app is on my phone, I can play Angry Birds when I'm on the subway because I don't need an internet connection and because I'm not accessing the mobile web. And finally, I alluded to this with the prestige piece before, but it's a great marketing opportunity. Talk about how this mobile app has served as a great tool for your current customers, promoted in local newspapers, things of that nature. Mobile websites. Important about mobile web, which I did mention earlier, is that it's universal. Develop it once, works on every platform. That's really worth a lot more than mobile app because, and these are points 2 and 3, you only need to develop it once and it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to develop a mobile web, for the mobile web. And finally, no user action needs to be taken with mobile web. What I mean by that is that for me to download your app, as I talked about, I've decided to open the App Store, I've decided to download it and enter my password and then wait for it to download. I've clicked it, I've opened it, and now I'm checking it out. Even though those things happen sometimes in milliseconds, those are still active steps that I have to take. But with mobile web, all I have to do is go to Google and search your company's name, and then I'm directed to your mobile website. I'm there. You didn't need, all you needed was for me to get that initial little bite of interest there. couple things before I close. I just want to talk about some trends I see for the future and things that we already have going on in the world of mobile. The first is the growth of location-based services. People here who may have used Groupon, Living, Social, anything of that nature, and apps in general now, everything is about location-based services, providing information pertinent to where you are at any point in time geographically, using the GPS feature in your phone to deliver you the deals, the information, nearest locations, anything like that. These services are only going to continue to grow, and they're already being incorporated into apps and websites and businesses that I didn't even dream would have a use for a feature like this. Second is the self-sufficient consumer. Has anybody here ever ordered groceries online before? When I was at school, I didn't do that all the time because I like to cook, so I really enjoy browsing down the aisles. But I would say at least once every couple months, usually around midterms or final season, when I didn't have time to go out to the store, I would have my groceries delivered to me, at my house near campus. It was great. But it also means that I didn't have an interaction with anybody in that store. I didn't have an interaction with anybody who represents the companies whose products I'm buying, like let's say Chiquita for bananas. I didn't engage with anyone who could try to sell me this product. They were solely relying on the ability of their copy and their picture image and possibly my past engagement with the brand. For businesses, what this means is that we now need to develop solutions for these self-sufficient consumers that can close the sale without a face-to-face interaction, or turn them from a self-sufficient consumer and generate a face-to-face interaction as a result of that. A great use of that is on social media. Things like a Facebook chat or a Google Hangout is a great way to replace that person-to-person interaction, take it out of the physical world and put it in the digital world. And the third thing, which kind of makes me sound like a little bit like a crazy person, but I believe that in 5 to 10 years we will see the death of the computer. And I look at a lot of different things in Japan. I look mostly in Africa, where we see an entire continent that has just skipped over computing technologies. And they moved right to mobile. They bank mobilely. They take care of their pharmaceutical business mobilely. There's one pharmaceutical company that offers a free malaria drug in Africa, and they manage their supply chain through mobile devices, through SMS messaging. They don't use computers. They don't use Excel spreadsheets. They use their phones. In Japan, you can buy things from a vending machine using your mobile device. I can't wait to see where we go, but we clearly see, I know in my own daily life, I turn on my computer maybe 3 or 4 days a week at this point. And I work in the digital technology world where I'm supposed to be on tech every day, but I can do half of what I need to do from my phone and my tablet. And I'm sure that number will only cut down over the coming years. And again, I said this earlier, but when it comes to mobile, when it comes to digital, if you can dream it, you can do it. There's a developer out there who's willing to take a leap with you to invest some time to figure out how to do this really great feature you think is awesome, create this new product, create this mobile app for your business. It's just a matter of matching up with that individual. So that's everything I have to talk about here today, and I'll be happy to take any questions about anything I talked about. Yes?
A couple of questions. One, kind of providing the app and the QR. Can you actually use a QR code
To direct someone to an app?
Yeah.
Yeah, what that link would be is it would embed in that the link to that app in the iTunes or the Android App Store. So they would scan it, and then it would bring me, instead of to a website or contact information, it would open up the App Store application and bring me to your app's page within the App Store.
What's the best way to research to find out if the app that you have in mind is already out there? Other than, is there an easy way?
It's really tough. I have no one solution that I like better than any other that I do right now. There are app magazines out there that you can go to and read about what's popular, that write about what's going on in the industry. A ton of blogs you can look at. You can go to Wired Magazine, things of that nature, PCNet, see what they're talking about in apps. Just go into the App Store and start searching within that category that you think this app would operate in. But I have yet to find a really good directory of everything that's out there. I see we had a question in the back.
Am I to understand correctly, if a business has a traditional website on a PC, you create a brand new mobile website with a different address? Is that correct?
Do you have a smartphone?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you try to go into Safari or whatever browser it is you're using, and you try to go to Facebook.com, you wouldn't, or Amazon.com, you wouldn't go to Amazon.com, you wouldn't go to Facebook.com. It would automatically redirect you to m.facebook.com or m.amazon.com. So on the user side, you don't have to worry about the creation of a new URL, because they can get automatically directed there, even if they type in their current URL. but it would be creating some sort of a new page, some sort of new pages for them to access initially. It could be something as simple as just creating one quote-unquote splash or landing page that has those key pieces of information we talked about, and then they get directed over to the full site after that. Or you could be creating an entirely new website that doesn't speak to your current site at all.
I don't think I understand.
Okay. You would be creating new pages, you would be creating a new website, but it could be incredibly non-intensive at all, or it could be an entire new site that's a replicate of your original site, depending on what you want to create. But you don't need to worry about creating a new site that you then need to promote to people. You don't need to worry about, if your business is newcenturyhomecare.com, you don't need to worry about buying a new URL. Someone will just get directed to m.newcenturyhome.com.
Automatically. So
Yes.
if I'm sitting at my desk and I have my smartphone here and my computer here, on my smartphone I type 123.com. On my computer I type 123.com. It's going to take me to separate places?
Yes. On your mobile device, it will take you to the mobile website associated with 123.com. On your PC, you'll go to the traditional website. I see we had a question in the back.
The websites, the mobile website, whether it's with the iPhone or with the Android, basically are the same?
Yes.
Okay, so you
But-
don't have to build specifically for
Right.
one of them?
With mobile web, you only have to build it once. But do not launch a mobile website without beta testing it first. Without, okay, I know I built it and I have an Android phone, but let me call my friend who has an iPhone and see what this would look like. So you only have to build it once, but it's important to make sure that you build it in a way that renders correctly on these different devices.
You say that reading vertically,
Mhm.
no arguments there.
Uh-huh.
But you turn the phone sideways, you got more real estate.
Mhm.
You could see so much more.
Mhm.
So my question is, why? Why do you,
Why do I say only vertical? Don't build in the scroll bars that make people have to go that way. Build a web page that is responsive, and then it will know, okay, it's been rotated. I
Gotcha.
will flesh every text out that way instead of this way. But don't build it with horizontal scroll bars built in.
gotcha.
For those of us who are digital natives
Mhm.
and don't have iPhones, Androids, etc., is there a good place, or where would you suggest that we could go to experience some of these, to see how they work, what we want, etc.? Is there, just go to Best Buy or somewhere?
One that I really like, because, like I said, we operate in higher education, so I always see what schools are doing out there. And Adelphi has a really great mobile web app that they use, and you can go online and check it out. You're not exactly replicating the experience because you are viewing it on a web page, but you can get an idea for what it is they're building, what it is they're developing, and how that works. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, also for those of us who have like a product when we go to conferences and things, is there anything special that you could recommend that you can take their credit cards and just, use it right on, to do it mobilely?
So to actually make a sale mobile.
Yeah.
Everything I do is either I have somebody write me a check or they pay me via Square. You can get a free reader from Square. Unfortunately, I don't have it on me, or I would show it off. And if anyone has it, please raise your hand. So
I have it out in the car if you want me to go
okay.
get it.
It's fine. It's a very small little white box. You get it for free in the mail from them.
Like
and
a
what-
postage stamp.
Exactly. No bigger than that, actually. It
That's
might even
right.
be smaller.
Yep.
You
I have it in the car, I'll show you
You
later.
can plug it into the headphone jack on the iPhone, and you run somebody's credit card through that. It brings you to a screen. You sign it just like you would a normal check. You can email them a receipt. I believe, don't quote me on this, I think Square gets 2.5%, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. That number may have
Pretty
changed.
close, and there's
Right
no
about that.
monthly fee.
Right. You don't have to pay a service charge every month. And I know a lot of retail-based businesses that are getting rid
Absolutely.
of their credit card provider and just working with Square now.
Or service.
Yeah.
PayPal and Intuit.
Yeah.
Also, and it also has the credit card swipe for the mobile device.
Yeah.
And they're also free.
Thanks.
I have a question about the app now.
Okay.
Like, let's say you're writing promotional app for a book.
Okay.
Like, how would you make furniture and options?
So the question you should ask yourself is, what is the purpose of this promotional app for a book? Like, what is it you want the user to experience while you're there, and what functions need to be included in that? And then the first thing you have to do is, okay, I know these are my functions. How should they be represented? Are they going to it from the book, or are they opening up this app? One of the options is that they could read the book. The other could be to email the author with a question or find out more about the author. Is that a feature? Whatever it is, determine that first. And then once you've got those features and you've built the home screen, break it down, determine what goes into each section. What's the purpose of each of these menu boxes? Why does this exist here? And then what about that is important to this app? Does that answer your question? Okay.
Tablets have just surpassed the mobile applications.
Yeah, they have.
Do you expect that to be continuing going in the future, or do you think mobile will come back again?
It all depends about innovation. I mean, the iPhone 5 could have a feature that absolutely blows everybody away, and they said, now I need to get a new phone. And I think a lot of what's happening is that in phones, the smartphone was such a huge disruptive technology that everybody needed to get one. I think smartphones, they're already building, God, I think they ship over 1 billion a year already, is the number I was just reading yesterday when I was getting ready for this. And it's already surpassed PCs and computers. I don't know if that number is going to get any bigger, because that means, every 7 years they've already built one for everybody on the planet. I wouldn't be surprised, though, because even in the United States, only 55% of us have them. So there's still another 45% market share of individuals who need them. And I do believe that telecommunications companies will begin to slowly, quote-unquote, force these on customers as well. So I think it'll come back. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a constant zigzag between the two, though.
You had a graphic up there. I think there was a 3-part graphic. The first one was about putting up, basic information, probably true going back to the Roman times and whatnot, and incorporated in the yellow pages and so forth and so on. So all of that is still basically true today, except now you get it on your smartphone or computer and whatnot. The second thing over was something about loading. If it takes too long to load.
Oh, yes.
And you went through that, and how do you deal with that? I mean, you cited, for example, Amazon as an example of where, they apparently have their act together and they've worked on this and they can get you the information quickly. I'm not Amazon.
Right.
So I don't have the resources that Amazon has. So how, as a small business, do I get it to the point where it goes at the speed you're looking for? It loads and it's there, just like this.
The first component of that is designing optimized code, which is the job of the developer to handle. And that's not even something that I'm well versed in, because I'm not a development guy per se. But that's the first step you do, is create optimized code that is there for the purpose of being quickly and bringing the user to the functions they need. The second component of that is this nice big sign that I put here at the end. When you go to Amazon's homepage, you do not have images, you don't have the best sellers, you don't have what you looked at last time. You have about 5 options, which is like the search bar, sign in, visit your account, recent orders. It's little blocks that are one color, and they have 5 to 12 characters of text on them. They don't have these GIFs, they don't have large images, they don't have videos, they aren't populating these pages with things that make them take a long time to load, just like they would on a regular computer. It's the same thing that would cause a page to go slow on a PC, but just it's even now more important to get rid of them and build a simple site.
Like big files involving photographs, for example, and pictures.
Right.
Jonathan, thank you very, very much.